Most Americans have no idea how outdated our financial system really is. Behind the scenes, the core infrastructure that moves money between banks, systems like Fedwire, chips, and cross-border settlement networks is decades old. Even U.S. leaders have said publicly that our payments are slow, costly, and long overdue for a 21st century upgrade. So the big question is this: if the U.S. government is working on a next-generation financial system built on blockchain, what technology could they realistically choose? And could XRP, Ripple, Interledger Protocol, or any similar technology be part of that foundation? To understand what's even possible in the world of digital payments and blockchain technology, we first have to break down how a national blockchain payment system would actually be built, step by step from the ground up. A full overhaul of the U.S. settlement system isn't something you can create overnight. It's a massive undertaking that involves not just technology, but also coordination between banks, regulators, and government agencies. Based on what we know from the launch of FedNow and from U.S. CBDC pilot programs, a new wholesale blockchain payment rail would require years of careful planning, policy decisions, legal reviews, technical prototypes, pilot programs, and extensive testing before it could ever go live. Every stage is crucial to ensure security, efficiency, and trust in the system. Realistically, building a new national financial system is a massive undertaking. It takes 2 to 4 years just to design the architecture, which involves countless hours of planning, collaboration between experts, and careful consideration of security and scalability. After that, getting regulatory agreement is another major hurdle. This process can take 2 to 5 years as government agencies and regulators must review, debate, and approve every detail to ensure compliance and public trust. Once the groundwork is laid, pilot programs are launched to test the system in real-world conditions. But even after successful pilots, it can take another 5 to 10 years for system-wide adoption as institutions and users gradually transition to the new technology. So if the U.S. wanted to move quickly, the only realistic option would be to build on top of technology that already exists, has already been thoroughly tested, and is proven to work reliably at an institutional scale, minimizing risk and accelerating the timeline for nationwide adoption. And here's where it gets interesting. A realistic U.S. blockchain system would not start with retail wallets for everyday people. It would start with wholesale settlement. The plumbing that banks and central institutions use. That includes interbank transfers, cross-border settlement, tokenized deposits, tokenized securities, and 24/7 wholesale payments. This fits perfectly with what the New York Fed has already been testing in projects like Project Cedar and RLN, where they successfully demonstrated that a blockchain-based wholesale CBDC can settle FX transactions in just seconds. The U.S. is clearly experimenting with blockchain settlement at the highest levels. Now you might be wondering, where exactly could XRP or Ripple fit into the broader landscape of digital payments and financial infrastructure? It's a question that comes up often, especially as new technologies emerge and traditional systems are challenged. Here's the important distinction to understand. RippleNet, which was previously known as RippleNet or sometimes even Ripplet, is not a cryptocurrency itself. Instead, it's enterprise-grade software designed specifically for facilitating cross-border payments between financial institutions. RippleNet aims to make international transactions faster, more reliable, and cost-effective for banks and payment providers. However, when it comes to national payment infrastructure, the U.S. government is extremely unlikely to select any private company's proprietary network, no matter how advanced, as the backbone for the country's settlement rail. Choosing a private network would raise significant concerns about federal neutrality, the risk of corporate control over public money, complex procurement rules, and perhaps most importantly, questions of national sovereignty and oversight. So while RippleNet offers innovative solutions for the private sector, it's unlikely to become the core of a future U.S. government payment system. The search for a truly public neutral infrastructure continues. But Interledger Protocol, originally developed at Ripple and now open, decentralized, and maintained by W3C, is a different story. Interledger is ledger agnostic, open source, and designed to route payments across any network, just like the internet routes data. It packetizes value into small conditional transfers that settle atomically across different systems. This is exactly the kind of interoperability layer central banks around the world have been discussing. In a realistic U.S. design, you would probably have a three-layer model, a Federal Reserve-operated wholesale ledger at the base, an interledger-style routing layer on top of that, and then private networks, bank APIs, stablecoin issuers, enterprise systems like Ripples and others, connected through that open routing fabric. So that means XRP doesn't have to be the official currency to still play a role. XRP is, a neutral digital asset on a public ledger. Banks and liquidity providers could still use XRP for cross-border settlement or liquidity if it makes economic sense. The XRPL could actually be one of many ledgers connected through an interledger-based network. The key is, the government wouldn't choose XRP. They would choose an architecture where many assets and ledgers can interoperate, and XRP could be part of that ecosystem. Other technologies also compete in this space. ISO 2022 for data messaging, Moja Loop for domestic interoperability, BIS Project Nexus for global instant payment connections, and a new global RTGS settlement fabrics. But Interledger is one of the few that truly acts as a universal routing layer for value, similar to how TCP/IP acts for information. That's why many experts see Interledger-style designs as likely candidates for future national systems, not because of XRP, but because the architecture is neutral, open, flexible, and proven. Now here's where timing becomes extremely relevant. If U.S. leadership wants a major financial system upgrade within a single presidential term, they cannot start from scratch. They would need existing proven blockchain systems that already work at scale. Ripple is one of the few companies in the world that has real-world deployments in cross-border settlement, liquidity management, treasury, and repo tokenization, and CBDC pilots. Even if Ripple does not directly run the system, their technology, especially Interledger, could easily be part of the backbone. And Ripple's experience with large financial institutions could really make them a valuable contributor, or even a gratis vendor, providing open technology like Interledger to help speed up development. So could the US secretly be working on a new blockchain-based payment infrastructure right now? It's certainly possible. And could they be using or at least considering open technologies connected to Ripple, like Interledger protocol? That's also very plausible. Would XRP itself be mandated as the official settlement token? Extremely unlikely, but XRP could still play an optional role within a broader interoperable system. Personally, based on everything we've seen, from federal pilot programs to Ripple's work with banks, to the growing focus on tokenization, to public statements about upgrading the financial system, it seems clear that something major is unfolding. Whether XRP is involved directly or indirectly remains to be seen, but the technological fit is absolutely there. Let me know what you think. Did this help you understand the landscape better? Am I close, completely off? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this breakdown useful, please hit like. It helps the video reach more people who want to understand what's happening with blockchain and the future of the US financial system.